Well, hello, hello, and welcome everyone to the Lockhart Radio Podcast. I am your host, Felicia Lockhart, and today we have a very good friend of mine and a wonderful man, a gentleman that I absolutely admire and care for very dearly. He's a gentleman, he is a very kind man. And he's our guest today. His name is Roy Potter. For those of you who do not know, he's got a lot of great stuff here on YouTube. I want you to go over to Roy Potter's channel. I will leave the links down below so that you can find him on Twitter. And that way you can also look and find him on YouTube, and you'll be able to see just who he is. I want you to do that. There's a lot of great stuff that's there. He's not with us in the YouTube streets anymore, but hopefully after today, we can cajole him to return. That's always what you want. You want to cajole somebody to do something good. I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Roy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Felicia. You know, I'm always honored that you want to talk to me. I think that's just wonderful, even though I'm not so sure I'm making any impacts anymore, as you know. And you're trying to cajole me to go back on YouTube. I'm afraid that's not going to work. but I am on X, you know, old Twitter. I'm still active there, and I do post occasionally on the community posts on the YouTube channel. But after what YouTube has done to me, taking down, as I was telling you, like 150 of my videos, and you know, censoring me all the time, and then trying to get people to see what's happening, and they decide to use all types of pejoratives against you, which don't hurt my feelings. But what it tells me is am I really making an impact that's going to matter? So anyway, no, I probably won't do any more YouTube videos, but who knows, you know, like the 007 movie, James Bond movie, you know, never say never. So we'll see, but I don't anticipate it.
I do understand. And, you know, it's nothing wrong with like making a live and taking it down. And those who got it, right? So you don't have to go through that. But, you know, I have to just be candid with you. I felt the same exact way with regards to a lot of things that, you know, was being taken down from my side. And then watching the numbers go up and then watching the numbers go down, it just gets you a little discouraged where, you know, you don't see if it's making a difference. And then I learned later that those things were done by design, you know, it's to get you a little frustrated and it's to get you a little upset. You know, I'm like taking down things for me that I had put up, you know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I'd get an email even just recently saying, hey, we saw that this went against this or that. And then it was, you know, knocked out. So with all of that said, I feel you and I get it. And I think that, you know, you made a good point to me earlier when you were sharing with me that it was good for me to take a break. You know, it's healthy to take a step back. And I really honestly feel like, you know, you're not wrong there because I do feel a lot better now that I have, you know, now that I'm back. And I do, and I appreciate it. So I've had to put some things like discipline in place to make sure that, you know, I've got a live stream every Friday and, you know, on headlines or, you know, whatnot. Now today is Monday. So, you know, we won't have a live stream on Friday. We might, if anything else goofy happens. But for the most part, I've had to put together a schedule that's going to keep me consistent. And I've got a couple of other smaller channels that are like teeny tiny baby channels, which are helpful because then I get to put some other stuff over there, some little, you know, light banter or things, not so heavy, which is what I honestly think was really holding me back. But I do want to get into some topics today with you, things that are in your expertise, in your level, in your area of expertise, I should say. And I'm going to just give you carte blanche to just go ahead and start wherever you want to start. Now, I know that's a little different for a lot of people who do interviews. But because I know you and I know that you are a man who's led with wisdom, I'm going to let you just start. But let me throw one piece of meat in the bullpen, as it were, though. Okay, so the piece of meat that I'm going to throw in the bullpen is, I don't want to start here. I don't want to start there. I'm tempted, but I don't want to start there. What do you think is going on right now with the unrest that we're having in certain states about the immigration situation? We'll start there, light, gentle, easy, and then we're going to go to where I really want to go. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I probably have a different viewpoint on this than a lot of the MAGA people do, who are. The way I look at it is, we've had how many millions of military aged men brought into this country under the Biden administration, and that's a serious problem. Families are one thing, even though you can hide things in families as well. But to go after the gangsters, the military aged men that are here without families, sending them back, I think that's an important thing to do. But I had a feeling that because government always overreaches, that would be used to go after the folks that they shouldn't go after. I mean, it's sort of like, it's like in the this is really a bad analogy, but because we were just talking about Men in Black here a few minutes ago before we went on the air. But you remember in the very first Men in Black movie, you have that van coming in, and the Border Patrol stops it, and they're interrogating them here, and then here come the Men in Black, and
Hmm.
they're going through and they're saying, okay, well, welcome to the United States, yeah, okay, well, you're going to go work, yeah, you're going to do this, yeah, and these people were looking for a better life. And then he gets to the problem man. Remember the guy that's holding up the head?
Yes.
And that's the guy that they're looking for, the bad dude. And that's the one that they say, no, you can't be here. Well, that's how I was hoping that this whole thing would work, that they'd go after the, the, the military aged men that were brought in, and I guess there's some women too, of course, but brought in with the obvious purpose to cause uprisings and to be sleeper cells. And that I thought was legitimate. The gangsters, like the situation with the apartment building in
Yeah.
Denver, or things like that, or whatever. Why in the world would you go? And a lot of MAGA people still wanted the agricultural people, rounded up as well. But why would you do that? It causes two problems. It does cause a problem in the economy. Number one. Number two, these people, yeah, okay, they've been here for a while. They've had plenty of time to put in their paperwork, and they should have. But encourage that. Why are you throwing these people out? And a lot of them in back in some very bad situations. Why don't you just concentrate on the people that you know are the real problem? I'm not saying that an illegal alien. Oop, that I should have not have said that on
Oh, that's
YouTube.
what they are.
you know, uh, I'm not saying that isn't violating our laws. That's not the point. The point is, uh, they're almost using this as a way to backhandedly. This is the way I look at it. Backhandedly take down the economy and to divide the people. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, but that's how I view it. If you're going to go after the obvious problem people, that's good. But the rest of it, I think it's an underhanded way to, like I said, to destroy the economy, to put it in another problem area, and to divide us. And that's really bad. And that's how I've looked at it from the very start. I was disappointed that they started going into the agricultural fields and grabbing those people. You know, they're willing to work. They're not out there selling drugs. I mean, if they're using that as a cover to sell drugs, then investigate that.
Hmm.
But I frankly, I think it's typical government overkill. They just go too far.
I
Uh,
agree.
and so that's where I'm looking at right now. But what's the end result? Well, we are being infiltrated. I mean, I've seen them. I've seen these people. As a matter of fact, I was driving down the road one day here not too long ago, and I saw a group of these guys in a white it was a white Tahoe, and they had bulletproof vests. They had ballistic vests,
Wow.
piles of them in the back of this truck, and they're showing each other which one they like and all this, and I'm going, holy cow, these guys are bad news.
Mm.
So I looked around for a police officer, and I found one, and I told him where I saw it go. He didn't care.
Mm.
He didn't care. And these guys, they're getting these. There are no doubt. There's no doubt that there are weapons caches and we have not just anti-Americans, but dead. I mean, uh, dead to rights Marxists uh,
Mm-hmm.
and enemies that are here, and they enjoy killing. I'm sorry, but that's the situation. So we have this situation with the No Kings. Well, first of all, with all the protests, uh, if you want to protest and say and wave the American flag and say, you're not abiding by the Constitution and protecting people's rights, even if we're not citizens, at least let us speak or whatever. That's one thing. But when these people show up and they start waving flags from foreign countries, see that's wrong. And those people, I have no problem going after, none
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever. And
Mm-hmm.
again, the gangsters and the military age people that are here to be the sleeper cells, and when they get activated, that's going to be bad when that happens. I was surprised it didn't happen yesterday. I
Mm-hmm.
really thought that it might get kicked off yesterday, but uh, you know, these things are managed, and we've got this war going on. I don't mean to get off topic on the immigration thing, but we've got this war going on in Ukraine, and now, of course, the one in Israel and the Middle East. And one thing I've noticed with these manipulators, these people that run the world, they don't do everything at once. They kind of like the salt and pepper, give a little bit here, a little bit there, you know, uh, push this to a certain point and then back off a little bit and then start something somewhere else. It's something in their strategic view that causes them to do that. So I think, at least for the moment right now, until if this thing in the Middle East goes any further, which I'm afraid it's going to, then they might start activating some of these local cells here. Will the Iranians do it? Well, I don't think they would have if we hadn't actually been assisting Israel in the fight that they have. If we weren't delivering, first of all, delivering weapons systems to, and money to Israel, and then preventing Iranian missiles from coming through, supposedly, we're defending that. I'm sorry, but taking part in the defense of a rogue nation is an act of war. I'm sorry, it is.
Mm-hmm.
The United States can't sit back and say, "Oh, we're just trying to stop problems, killing civilians in Israel or whatever. We're just in a defensive position." I'm sorry, a defensive position in combat is
Mm-hmm.
war. That's warfare. So yeah, I'm just sick and tired of that kind of double speak and double think in the United States government, and it goes again over into the immigration thing. Uh,
Exactly.
so I don't know if I've been clear on that, but again, to summarize it, go after the real criminals. And I know illegal immigration, that is a criminal act, but on the scale of from trespass coming into our country to preparing to help in the overthrow and the murder of people here, there's a spectrum, and I think that they've actually gone too far the other way. That's how I look at it.
So, do you think that it was more of a deflection to let the people see these large demonstrations, or shall I say, large acts of roundup, basically rounding everybody up and showing, see, we mean business, as opposed to showing me some MS-13 cats that's being taken out? Do you want me to, you know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So that, and so, do you believe that it's I don't think that these cats are going to be taken out because I don't care about a nail tech. They're in Georgia snatching people out of nail salons, two or three people who don't have their papers in order, and they're putting that
Yeah.
on the 6 o'clock news. I want you to show me the same with the same exact intensity and the same energy you had while people were beating up New York police individuals. Go into New York and show me those raids.
Exactly, and I agree with that. There's a little story I often tell to show what's going on here. I was in a town. I'm not going to name where it was. I don't want to cause them any problem. I was in a town where, seriously, if there was they'd stop the police would stop some little old lady who was going down the road and may have uh, made a turn without using her turn signal or something minor like that, and they'll stop and they'll throw the book at her, But if there was a serious crime going somewhere, especially if there were guns involved, I'm not kidding you, the cops would head in the opposite direction.
It's like low hanging fruit, right?
Yeah. So they go after the low hanging fruit to make it look like they're doing something. And what they're really doing is they're persecuting people. It's kind of like, well, I was at Bundy Ranch, for instance, right?
Yes, yes.
And I was there I was afraid they were going to pull a Waco type deal, and I think that was the plan, actually, but too many people showed up that were not willing to see that happen, and of course I was recording as much as I could. Well, the low hanging fruit, then, how do they, when the government wants you, they're going to come after you, but they knew better than to do it there. So what did they do? They picked you off one by one later when they considered you to be a problem for them. Okay, well, if that's how you're going to work, and frankly, I think it's kind of cowardly. But to reverse that, you go the other way, and you want to make it look like you're doing something, so you go after the little people that are just trying to survive, and you ignore the real problem. Because again, you can get it on the news, and you can show, look, we got this person, we got this group of people or whatever, and you're saying, okay, well, where are these military-aged men, and why aren't you rounding them up in larger numbers? And they say they are, but you notice that you don't see that as much. As you just pointed out, they're showing the grabbing these people in the stores, the salons, or the fields, or whatever. And that's not what I think we need to do. But
And
that's me.
I agree. No, I agree. And here's the thing. By no stretch of the imagination are we saying that those individuals, need to be held accountable and need to be escorted out. What I'm saying is, for the past 2 years, through every form of media, I was seeing this gang and that gang, and they said that they ate the ducks, and they said that they were moving people out of apartments and they were taking over. Why aren't we seeing those people dealt with now?
Exactly, and that's my point as well.
You see?
Very well
You
put.
see?
Yes.
That's the, I like the weightier matter. It's not like, we're not saying that sin ain't sin. We're not saying that bad ain't bad. What I'm saying is, if you want to impress me, you need to be going after them cats you were easily displaying over the past couple of years that we all covered, that we all saw. I get it. Now you're in the house and you're trying to show that all of this it's almost like you're trying to appease the masses or appease a base. And you really don't have that base anymore. That base is dwindling every single day. I don't know whether anybody watched it. And I tried, not to look too much at the whole parade and all that other stuff. But this should be showing, not that I don't really think anybody cares, especially the guy that's in there now. I don't really think he cares because he can't do anything. He can't come back. But I do feel like there's a lot of damage that's being done to the American trust, the American people. And let me know what you think about this whole idea of, we're going to be saved, which we all knew wasn't going to happen. But now it's like curses foiled again. What are your thoughts on how everyone was used to push that narrative over the past, year or so, while we were all ramping up for this election? What do you think the morale is like right now with the American conservative base as a whole?
Well, I read reports that a lot of supporters of Trump are kind of falling away now because they feel like, hey, he's not doing what he said. He's been flip-flopping on these things. Like I said, with the immigration thing, I think maybe they expect too much. Why would we expend energy taking out people in a field pulling raspberries or radishes or whatever, instead of using our resources to go after the real problem? It's I think a lot of people, it's a complicated thing. I'll just say it like this.
Please just say it.
I think it's betrayal at the highest levels. It's to demoralize us. And I'm sure you're going to get into the overseas stuff eventually too.
Oh, we going.
And yeah, and you hear all these promises and how things are going to get fixed. The great savior and all that. And look at the attacks on the First Amendment,
Mm,
uh, based upon a select group of chosen people, of special people. I thought this was a country of equal protection under the law. And then to make these particular laws, and I think everybody knows what I'm talking about, protecting a certain group of people. You can't even discuss their doctrine in their own words and in their own texts that are a problem without being considered, some
right,
type of an extremist against them.
right,
It's their own words.
right.
I post their own words and I get in trouble for it. So, in other words, how come, another example, and I know that Trump has done some good on this, at least we've heard a couple of them, but you get a certain group of people, and I'm moving to another group, I'm really not off the topic. I'm trying to
Oh, I
correct
respect it.
all
I
this.
know. I know the dance.
So
I got you.
so you get these people that have come in by the thousands, maybe by the millions, who are very much different from American society, and they have this thing about being called to prayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so they can go out there and they can pump this stuff over loudspeakers and
Mm-hmm.
disturb the community that's not their culture.
Mm-hmm.
But you get a little lady who goes out and prays on the corner of the street, uh, you know, and talks about Jesus, and
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden that's a hate crime. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So what's going on here? It's definitely attacking the American people at their basic core. And of course, you see all this stuff culturally on the entertainment, in advertisements and government promotions, and you hear, well, oh, we're going to stop the DEI. Well, okay, that's great, because we need people that are proficient and can do the job, not put in there because of some quota or something. But by the same token, what are you going to do about this group of people here that you're giving these exceptions to, where they can disturb a whole community because of their culture? Well, what about our culture that says that you don't do that?
That's right.
So I guess what I'm saying is it's 1984 again.
Oh my.
Orwell's 1984.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain groups that they are giving privileges to, and they're taking the rights away from other people based on, oh, we don't want to injure these other groups that are culturally different than ours. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to experience their culture, I'll go to their country and visit.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to experience my culture, they can come and visit me in my culture. You're not going to tell me that I've got to bow to their culture here.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right. So it's this um, dilution of of the American uh, the American conscience, the American, and I know that's almost a joke to say. It's like military intelligence is a contradiction in terms. It's kind of like that. The American experience has not been, you know, good, uh, by and large. I mean, we're a warmongering country. We've been
Oh
that way
my
from the
God.
very
Yes.
start, and so I'm not saying that we're pristine, puritanically perfect. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that. We have this concept of liberty, and if we're going to, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and if we're going to apply it, we got to apply it equally. We don't need to make a special group of people that we protect that you can't talk bad about. You
Mm.
know, for instance, in Europe, and it's going to get this way here if it's not already. Even though Trump says he's trying to stop it, I don't believe anything he says. By the way, you have the situation, in Britain, for instance, where you can't, you have a couple of these people that like to have calls on prayer 5 times a day, go out and they knife a group of people, especially young girls or something, and then you can't talk about it because that's hate speech.
Right.
They
Right.
committed a crime. I
Right.
don't care who they are. I don't care who they are. You have a right to say that it was wrong and that those people should be locked up. When
Absolutely.
they're protected like that, and yet you might have a guy, and I'm not going to name any particular names, but if you have a guy out there who calls that out, and then you arrest him, or you write on your social program, like whatever you have, Facebook or whatever, that you don't like that, and then they come and arrest you simply for saying you don't like that inequity in application of justice. you know that's deliberate subterfuge and destruction of the people in their own homeland. That's what that's about. It's a part of warfare. So I believe when I look across here, I think a lot of people are aware of this. But then I look on X, and I see people complaining about this stuff. But the real influencers, and I'm not going to name them here. I don't think that would be a good idea. But the real influencers, I see their responses to this, and it's like, no, Trump can't do any wrong. Everything he's doing is exactly the way it should be. Uh, you know,
It's
uh,
gaslighting.
yeah, it's exactly what it is, and that you can't tell me that they don't know what they're doing.
It's all by
So,
plan. It's nothing
yeah,
by accident. Nothing by
exactly.
accident.
So
You
me, I'm kind of vociferous when it gets down to this. I don't know if I'm making the point very well, but hopefully, I think you get where I'm
I
coming from.
get you.
But I'm being very careful on my word selection, so
Well,
I don't need to
with
abuse
you
that.
and me together, I don't think we can be that careful. It don't matter. They still it's still apparently, a possibility that something's still gonna get hit. But if everybody does us one big favor right now, and that is to hit the like button, it will help to circumvent that. So even if you don't like what we're saying, whether you hit the like or the dislike button, it will help us immeasurably. It'll help us because we do need to get the voice that has not been heard for a while out. And then it also allows us to know that there are other people who do think with a specific set of rationale that is so necessary and so needed, because there have been eggshells that have been put in place where everybody is now tiptoeing over them, trying to find a place on the ground that doesn't have an eggshell to walk. That becomes a very dangerous dance to do. But if we all hit that like button right now, share it out to those who can see it, even if it's just a matter of you sharing it on your cell phone, or if you've got a platform that you can share it to, that'll be awesome. We really need that. I do want to pivot just a little bit, but not too far from because we're going someplace. And I don't want to take too much more of your time, but what I do want to do is pivot to the fact that you mentioned the Constitution. And I think that a lot of things that are being done in public right now with, laws that are literally being, that people are rubbing up against specific laws, and they are doing it publicly, and people are asking questions like, oh wow, Maxine Waters couldn't get inside of a building, and it was a federal building, a detention center, and she couldn't get in. And I think those things are contrived. I think they're also planned. And then there's other people who have been trying to get into buildings and they can't get into them. And then there was this big wrestle with a guy out in California, and he's a senator, and he was being apparently or allegedly wrestled by the security because they thought that he was just trying to get in. We poked light at the fact that it didn't look like they were trying to wrestle him, to me, because California is notorious for, if they want you down, you're going to go down, and he didn't go down. And so I think that a lot of things are being done, and I want to know your idea about this. A lot of things are being done in the public light to let regular man, everyday Joe Blow on the streets know that if they can do it to them, they're going to do it to you. So it sort of softens it to where now you're expecting that if it happens, well, it did happen to such and such. The same thing with Trump. Well, if he can get thrown in jail for doing this or that, or saying this or that, then I guess you could too. Do you think that those things are being done to soften the approach that they're taking to sort of removing our rights? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think so. I approach this from this angle. The Operation Mockingbird never went away. The government uses its own propaganda against us. We pay taxes to the government, and they use our money to propagandize us, which is wrong.
Mm.
Uh, I think one of the best things I've heard lately, I really like it. There's a guy that I'm friends with. He's a well-known podcaster and a public speaker, and he puts it like this: everything that's out there right now, everything is to influence you, not to inform you.
Mm.
So yes, I think it's all manipulation. Um, uh, as far as the Constitution is concerned, on my X account, and I think it's on my YouTube too. I talk about that I have this. I'm not saying it's a perfect system. It is not, obviously, but those Bill of Rights are inviolate. You know,
Mm.
I don't care what kind of government we have. If we went to a monarchy, let's just say we did that, I wouldn't be upset about that. But those Bill of Rights better not be monkeyed with.
Hmm.
Those are they go back to the Magna Carta and all of that. Um, very important, and they can't be misused. Unfortunately, all of this manipulation that's going on is the bottom line is not just to attack our form of government, basically, to turn it into a dictatorship, if you will, or whatever. But the real bottom line is to go after those Bill of Rights. And so I think everything that you see, oh, he shouldn't be able to do that because of such and so. You shouldn't be able to say this because you might offend, the what term should I use here? You were talking about the baby.
Baby hat,
Yeah,
baby
yeah,
hats.
yeah. You might offend somebody if you're talking about you're actually going to injure someone or cause damage. That's one thing, but to say that speech criticizing a group of people for their beliefs is is somehow hate speech and that it's going to rise to the level of violence, that's wrong. That's almost the idea of what was that called, that movie with Tom Cruise, Minority Report. It's
Mm.
almost like pre-crime. There's been no crime committed. Thought crime is not a crime until you actually
The thought
commit
that
the
you was
act. Yeah,
thinking. Yeah.
yeah. So, because I mean, how many times have you said to somebody, and just in passing, something like, "If you do that, I'm going to kill you."
You
you
know what I
know,
mean? You hear that
you
kind of
don't
stuff
mean
all the
it.
time, but you
Yeah,
don't mean it. Yeah.
you don't mean it. There was, back when I got into Scotch, I'm going to change this around a little bit. You know,
One of my favorite
because
topics.
yeah, well, because of Bettina, I got into Scotch. Can you believe that? Because of her, I got into Scotch. I can't drink much right now, but if I'm going to, I really like Scotch. And so, at any rate, I was watching all these different YouTube channels, talking about the different scotches available and all that. There's this one guy by the name of Robert Patterson, and
Hmm.
he was I think he was for Dalmore company. I think he was a Dalmore taster and promoter of that type of scotch. And one of the things he used to say is, you hold your glass like this. And if you hold it like this, in other words, to keep the scotch cool, right? You
Hmm.
hold it at the bottom, but if you hold it up here like you do when you're drinking water, I'll kill you. He didn't mean it. It was a euphemism. Maybe there would be a better one. But the point is those types of things are said, and people are using it against others in forms of speech. But if you go out there and you say, okay, no, we're really coming, we're going to burn down your building, or we're we're going to shoot you in the street, or if you're
Yeah.
really talking about action, and then you proceed down that line, okay, that's different. But to say I don't believe in their form of belief, I think that it's dangerous because it teaches that there's a chosen race above everybody else.
Mm.
To me, I don't trust any of the Abrahamic religions now. They've all
Hmm.
become corrupted, in my view.
Okay.
So not one of them. I don't favor one over the other at this
Okay.
point.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's the path that you follow. So if you're saying you don't go along with something, and that, hey, there's whether it's the Quran saying that they should kill a Jew behind a rock, or I hope I shouldn't have said that word.
No, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, we can edit that out if we have to.
Or if it's in the Talmud, and it says it's okay to steal from let's just say
Somebody.
regular person. If you point that out, and then they say, well, that's hate speech because you brought it up. No, that's not hate speech. That's fact. And even if I only believe it's true, that's still free speech, as long as I don't act to harm somebody in actuality. Then it becomes a problem. So anyway, but they've gone down that road. We've seen it in Europe now. It's a real problem, and it's here. Dan Bondi, as I was talking to you before the show started, saying, no, you can't say certain things. No, that I'm sorry. If we have the First Amendment, we have the First Amendment, and if we don't, then don't pretend that we do.
Yeah. I want to pivot again. The U.S. Air Force has made an unprecedented mass deployment. This article comes from the Military Watch magazine. And it says that they made an unprecedented mass deployment of KC-135 and KC-46 aerial tankers across the Atlantic from bases on the American mainland, fueling considerable speculation that the aircraft may be intended to participate in the ongoing Israeli-Iranian war. The number of aircraft has continued to rise and was reported in the late hours of June 15th, West Coast time, to have exceeded 30 tankers. Now, I know that they've also activated the Nimitz, and this is me talking, not the article, but I do know that the Nimitz is on its way as well. That's amazing. So it just goes to say that tankers from multiple Western countries have been reported to be participating in supporting the Israeli Air Force aerial refueling efforts to facilitate strikes on Iran. Now, I mean, just I'm gonna be real civilian here, okay? Because the way that I'm seeing this is, and please help my mind. If I go and I dump trash on my neighbor's yard, and she comes back and she does it, and then I'm the victim. How am I the victim? Okay, go ahead, Roy. Do your thing. I'm just go ahead.
No, I know where you're coming from, and it's I've used the same type of analogy, like the schoolboy bully.
Mm-hmm.
You get the bully out there, and he hits the guy, the little nerd with the glasses, and the nerd hits back in self-defense, and yet the school goes after him
Mm-hmm.
and not the bully, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we might go after the bully too, but the point is, it's wrong. That actually happened to my brother.
Wow. Brother, and so many children. Yeah.
My brother, he was in junior ROTC, Naval Junior ROTC in high school. Mm-hmm. And he's walking home from school, and he gets jumped by these three guys. And at the time, he was, I think at that point, he was like a brown belt in Taekwondo. He had been working at that.
They messed with the wrong guy?
Yeah, they did. And he did him some damage. But it was in self-defense. There were witnesses that saw it. Well, they expelled him. He wasn't even on school property, and they expelled him from school. Mm. And this is the kind of thing that happens so often because it goes against the official narrative that they're trying to do, whatever type of societal manipulation they're trying to run. And so getting to this situation that you're talking about in the Middle East or Ukraine even.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to pause for just a second. I see that there's a lot of stuff ramping up now that everybody's eyes are on this situation. There's a lot of things that are ramping up over there. And that, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you these questions and then you can run with them. Do you see China and Russia joining in with Iran in this situation? Do you see it maybe possibly going to number 3, okay, for the whole world? And do you see it stopping anytime soon?
Deagle.com put out some information back about 5 years ago that by 2025, the population of just the United States, we could talk about some other countries, but that the population of the United States would be reduced from 350 million to 100 million.
Oh my God.
Now, whether you believe that Deagle.com has any inside information or not, the point is that we know that there's a depopulation agenda. They're even talking about it at Bilderberg this year, right? So that came out just the other day. Depopulation is one of the topics. So how do they accomplish that? Well, we've had, and I really am answering your question here, but I'm bringing in some other things to know why all this is happening. The governments do not have the monetary capability of the safety nets anymore. They've stolen from, for instance, the Social Security system in the United States. They rob that. That money is constantly being stolen by the government to use on other things. So when it comes down to trying to pay all these people who have their retirement in the Social Security, they don't want to have these people that are in the financial system and in the government don't want to have to pay it out. So what do? You depopulate. You get rid of the people that are going to make a claim on it. So that's what's happening. So Deagle.com, whether it's going to be because of the COVID stuff, where now they're talking about this new strain, and they're going to convince people to go get
something else,
a treatment for it, right? Or war. War is the go-to when you start having financial problems, or when the people start getting too much. It's like Gerald Celente says, they take you to war. That's what they do. So two things: the movement of the tankers and all that. There is an exercise going on up in, and of course, exercise are always cover for military operations. But there is an exercise that this happens every year, or every 2 years, I guess it is, up in for NATO countries up in the Scandinavian area. Yes, it could be a cover. They could actually be getting ready to do something. But just so you're aware that is going on. So it could just be that, but then we see the saber rattling happen. Ukraine is now saying that, Iran's going to attack, and why would Iran attack Ukraine? Come on, that's a stretch. But you do have Israel at this point and that's our real concern. At this point in time, it's the whole thing in the Middle East is really where the whole concentration is going, because, how do I say this, influence that they have in our country. And so I think it's very likely that we just, another example, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit.
No, you're okay.
I saw yesterday on X that they claim that they got the supreme leader of Iran. There were claims that was happening, and I looked at it and I thought, I don't think that's true. And then there was another one that said, we're finding out that, and these are coming from supposedly reputable sources.
Absolutely.
We have information now that the top government officials have fled Iran. What?
Oh, come on now.
They make a couple of these statements and then drop it, and like people are going to forget it. Well, I see what they're doing. They are prepping the battle space. They're trying to demoralize certain people. They're trying to get them to think in a certain way. So, in my personal opinion, I think that they are going to push the thing with Iran too far. I think they are. I don't really. Apparently, and here's another thing: Putin apparently told Iran that they're on their own. I don't know that that's the case. That's
wow.
Who knows? Who knows what really happened there? But there are treaties involved, and China and Russia and Pakistan are all in there with Iran. And then you've got the Nimitz going in there that I think is a tripwire. The Nimitz
absolutely.
I think our government is wicked enough, evil enough to let the Nimitz be the tripwire to get that thing sunk in the Straits of Hormuz, which Iran could do very easily, take down 5,000 sailors with it,
Yep.
and have their excuse. Because everybody, I mean, there is a big pushback on this thing. People are looking at what's been happening over there, and they realize that this one country that seems to get so much help from us is really an arrogant piece of crap,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not really willing to do it. Well, all it would take is something like that, and it could change a lot of people's mind. Just like the Gulf of Tonkin claims, the Maine, the WMD in Iraq. I mean, how many of these things do we have to name?
Mm.
So, I follow a guy by the name of Matt Bracken. I don't know if you know who he is.
No, Matt Bracken. Okay,
Yeah.
is he on X? Matt
Yes,
Bracken.
he's on X. He
Okay.
used to be on YouTube, but because of what he writes about, he's a military analyst, and he was a lieutenant commander in the Navy SEALs. This guy he's brilliant, and he's written several books on how the world would progress to this war that we're looking at now, and also the infiltration of the United States by these military age men that I've been talking about. Why are we, again, going back, why are we grabbing these people in the fields when we need to be grabbing these people who are going to pick up weapons against us? That's who we're supposed to be looking for. So Matt Bracken is his name, M-A-T-T, Matt Bracken, Bracken, and he is on X, and he does post things on Rumble, and he gets interviewed quite a bit by other people in their own, .com platforms or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt Bracken talks about the Nimitz. So this wasn't I'm not telling you something that I figured out. This guy is actually the guy that brought it up. They're taking the Nimitz, which is this old, clunker from World War II, and they're putting it out there they're going to put it in the Straits of Hormuz, or in that area, with 5,000 sailors, and they don't care if it gets sunk, because that's not a big loss for them. The ship is going to be retired anyway. The sailors are like Kissinger said, fodder for their use.
Mm.
And the people that are not happy with what we're doing for and in behalf of that little Middle Eastern country that are the chosen people, now they're going to say, okay, yeah, we've got to help them because Iran did this. So I see it going that way, and as a result, Pakistan has already said, we'll nuke that little nation there, the little chosen group of people. We'll nuke it. We'll do it. And I don't think they're kidding.
Mm.
So if that happens, then you've got the retaliatory situation, which could really get out of hand. And we already know that all these, not far from where I live, there are bunkers underground for the elites. They'll just go in there, and they'll figure they'll just weather the storm. They don't give a crap about all these people that are out here trying to live their lives. They don't care. They want their war. They want their depopulation. And since we didn't respond real well with their sickness situation. They've got to go to the next level, which could include another one of those. But yeah, I think that what will end up happening, and by the way, I don't think it's fulfillment of prophecy in the standard way that people think about it. I call it forcing prophecy.
Yes.
This thing was written, and they're following a playbook, and they do it so that they can convince certain people that God is behind it and wants this, which is wrong. But yeah, they forced it into a position where I think we're going to see a major confrontation, and it's going to be bad.
Yeah, because the Nimitz has been at port for like ever, right? I mean, it's like I was amazed when I even saw that that's what they were going to pull out. I'm like, yikes. Okay, so you're going to pull this old dude out, and you're going to put Pawpaw. You're going to take Pawpaw and put him out there in the water, and you're going to expect Pawpaw to roll out here like he's, somebody who's been at the gym for the last, 15 years straight. And he's not. Pawpaw been sitting in, Washington, right? It's Washington State, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's like, so that part I knew was a major, hey, it just sprung a leak, but we're going to blame it on somebody else because it's just old, and it works. I do want to then get into a few things, and the first thing is I did hear some of the rumors that you've mentioned. Um, in part, one of them was that the United States, the president of the United States said that, oh, well, they wanted to go and take out the leader, but I said no. So that was like a little bell that was dropped. And then the whole thing about us knowing days before what happened last week was going to happen, and nobody did anything to stand against that. First of all, I understand exactly what targets were hit. Okay, I've heard several stories, all the way to one of the stories that are already, it's being rendered now, and it'll be published later today here on this channel, where we're discussing the significance of Natanz, as well as the other areas there that they have. And then I've heard also today that, oh no, Israel says that they did make it through to the actual. They have the top level, and then they've got the underground level, which, according to reports, was sort of difficult to get to. But they're saying that it's now imploded, that it has now. So that is a large level of radiation, of chemical. Oh goodness gracious, that's that is that I'm just amazed that this is going on, and that whether they're lies or whether they're true, that we can actually report on these things and just keep a straight face. That's huge. That's chemical weaponry. That's Chernobyl 3.0, if what you're saying is true. So I'm wondering, where are they allowed to put out so many different stories, and then for us to hear, yeah, chemical and biological warfare, but chemical especially, right? What do you see as happening? There are a myriad of things that we're going to see that are fallout with this situation. I do want to focus on how is it that we can stand and say that we are innocent in this situation, and that the United States is only assisting, when to me it appears that there has been a lot more of our hands in it than we want to be to be known. I
We
said a lot.
we are, we are an engaged combatant. End of story. That's the way it is. We are a committed, engaged combatant in a war against Russia, in a war against Iran. No question about it. Anybody who said, it's like I said when we first started, trying to pretend like you're just providing defense for either Ukraine or Israel, whichever, that you're just trying to, but you're sending weapons, you're helping in intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. You're providing targeting information. You are an enemy combatant by definition. So we're already there. And Russia knows it, and Iran knows it, and China knows it, and Pakistan knows it, and whoever else, however this thing, lays out towards the end. To go and then on top of that, to hit the radio, the nuclear facilities, or Dimona or whatever one they're hitting, it's against international law to do that, because of the radiation leakage and the dangers involved with it. So the nations have lost their minds. They've lost their minds, or it's deliberate, and it's another way to cause mass casualties and depopulation. If they bomb those nuclear facilities, just claiming that they want to take them out so they can't make a bomb, well, they might as well just drop a frickin' nuclear weapon on it, because what's going to happen is you're going to get radiation into the atmosphere. It's going to spread around the globe. It's inevitable, and they know it. So their little pretense that they're stopping nuclear weapons development by taking out let's just say that Iran is making a nuclear weapon. I don't know that they are or they aren't. It depends on who you talk to. But either way or the other, you bomb that thing, and you're going to release something into the atmosphere that's not going to be very good. And you said it right. It's going to be Chernobyl 2.0 or worse. Mm-hmm. So you get these these people firing these things. You don't even have to fire nuclear weapons. You damage the nuclear facilities, you get a radiation leak, and it's going to cause problems throughout the world. So this is a problem, and this might be another thing that the elites or whoever is behind this stuff is pushing, because that way you're not destroying, the infrastructure that they want to claim afterwards, but you're getting rid of the people by poisoning them with radiation. You know about neutron bombs, right?
Oh my, yes. Go ahead. Talk about it.
Well, okay, it's a perfect example. A neutron bomb, when it goes off, it does not damage buildings or anything like that. It takes out biological life forms. That's all it does.
Mm.
So,
So there's that carbon footprint being annihilated as they'd hope.
Exactly. And then they don't. And then their social safety net systems that they are complaining about can't continue paying out. Now they don't have to worry about it anymore. I mean, who did they go after? I got to be careful.
The elderly. The elderly.
Yeah. When the sickness started, who did they really hit it on?
Yeah, don't go see don't go see your grandmama. Don't go in there. Yeah, absolutely.
Why is that? Because they're getting their social safety net that they paid into all their lives, and the government doesn't want to pay them anymore. So that's what this is all about. It's about eradicating as much of mankind. You know about the Georgia Guidestones.
Oh boy.
Down. Of course, they're gone now. So some brave soul blew them up. It wasn't me. Just so you know.
Okay.
But to take the population down to 500 million, which means that you destroy 7 billion people on the face of the earth. I think it's a real agenda. I think everything we see. You want to talk about chemtrails? Not chemtrails, of course. The stratospheric aerosol injection.
Yeah, stratosphere aerosol injection. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Again, I mean, what's the thing about CO2? How is CO2 a poisonous gas? It's one of the 4 things you need for life. You need sunlight, you need oxygen, you need CO2, and you need water. You take away any one of those and you destroy life on Earth. So why do they think that they need to reduce CO2 in the atmosphere? The more CO2 there is, it feeds the green. There's more green. When you have more green, you have more oxygen, right?
That's right.
But they're trying to say it's a poisonous gas. Well, what are they really after here? What they're really after, I'm not even sure it's the CO2 they're after. I think what they're after is that well, eventually I guess that's part of it too, but you block the sunlight and photosynthesis stops.
Oh, yes.
Or at least slows down. Or it could be something even more crazy, and I don't know if I should go here, but I'll just mention it because I did hear somebody with some horsepower talk about it, and it could be true. I've talked about Malachi 4 quite a few times, and that Shemesh will have healing in its wings, and the Shemesh there is talking about the actual sun itself. In Malachi 4, and it says that Shemesh will have healing in its wings and will come and destroy the wicked and burn in the stubble. What is that talking about? Well, if you can put any, and I'm very careful with these prophecies, of course, I think you know that now.
Yes.
But if there's anything to it, it's about that will somehow have an effect on the electromagnetic, let's call them weapon systems, that these people have been developing. For instance, the 5G towers. For instance, the sickness injections, putting this nanotech into us that makes us basically into an antenna where we can receive messages that they want us to have and block out messages that they don't want us to have, which is another reason why they might be blocking the sun. This gets into some crazy stuff, but when you start looking at the physics of it and the quantum areas of it, it's a possibility. What about about Mike Adams, right?
Oh yeah.
Natural News.
I know who he is. Yeah.
The experiment that he's been doing lately. Get this. A scientific experiment. And by the way, I knew the Army major who was in psychological operations that helped to develop the idea of what's the name of it? Uh, Remote viewing.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
okay.
that was actually, and of course in the CIA they were doing it too. But I actually knew the military officer that was involved in the remote viewing program, and it was real. It was real.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got this thing where Mike Adams has been doing an experiment using, and I don't understand that. I'm not a scientist, but he put together some frequency waves in this environment that he made that this depending upon what the issue is, he can get this material to make an image.
Wow.
And one of the images that it came out, and I think he's done quite a number of these things. It's a form of remote viewing, and he called that building that the missile went into in Tel Aviv that blew off half the side of the building.
Mm-hmm.
If you saw that on, when it did, it was it came out about a week ago, I think, maybe 3 or 4 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
This procedure that he did actually had that picture come up days before it actually happened.
Mm.
So there's what I'm saying is that there really is something about the electromagnetic spectrum that connects not just life but events, history, if you will. Just about everything. We're all connected in some way or another.
Agreed.
And they don't want us to be connected. They want us to be solitary, alone, isolated, and anything that they can do to cause that, they'll do it. So even if it's not true that the sun is now doing stuff to the people to wake them up, let's just call it that for
lack of better terms. Yeah.
that they'd want to stop that they'd want to put something in the way so that people don't come together and know that these manipulators are the real problem, and keep us isolated. So I think there's something to, I can't go any further than that on it because I don't have the scientific background or any of that. The Tesla ideas of free energy that they've denied for over a century now, that apparently even the Egyptians were using, or the Atlanteans, back 10,000 years ago. Who knows?
Yeah.
But all of that is designed to keep us weak and demoralized and alone. And
Well,
so,
go ahead. No, but what we're going to do right now is we're going to take like a 30-second break. We're going to come back. You can grab some water, and we're going to come back. And I do want us to go in head first and deal specifically with how we got here, and including the last, how did the last 4 years of the last administration help us get to where we right now, at the very top of this man's second term, in my opinion, if you compare it to the whole span of 4 years, how we got here, and how the last administration played a role in this. And even though it's so early on in his administration, where do you think we're headed? We're going to take a break. We have today our guest with us, Mr. Roy Potter, an exceptional man, an exceptional individual that's got great information for us. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, it's me, Felicia, of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do, because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it. But I don't have to do that anymore, because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will. All right, everybody, I want to welcome you back. We are back with our guest today here on the Lockhart Radio podcast, Roy Potter. And we're going to get into some things that I think we all really want to talk about. We're going to hit the bottom line on exactly what the last administration did to help where we are now and how it really is, in my opinion. And Roy, you can help me with this. It's all just the same platform. You just remove a couple of the key players, but you still got the same song. So go on ahead, Roy, and tell us what your thoughts are.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. I think it actually goes back a lot further than just the last administration, but I think most people can understand that. So I'll just point out that, in my view, at any rate, the whole Biden thing was so bad, that we were willing to trust this current dude to get us out of it, because how could anybody be as bad as Biden, right? So yeah, they play. What they did was they set up the play. It's sort of like in volleyball or in basketball, in particular, or in soccer. One of those team games. You get the person that sets up the ball, and then you have the guy that comes in and takes, he throws it in the basket or kicks it into the goal or whatever. So it was the setup. It was the setup to get us ready to accept our savior. That's how I view the Biden administration, and even Kamala running for president, same sort of thing. Even the Democrats knew that there was a problem with Kamala, right?
Yeah.
So, but they had to say, they had to make it look so bad that we'd be willing to do anything to get away from that. Now, in my own personal opinion and from my experience, nobody who sits in the White House in the Oval Office runs anything. They do what they're told. They're the president, the CEO of a corporation, and the board of directors tells the president what they want. In our system, that's supposed to be the Congress, right? But in reality, that's not what's happening. It's happening from a group of very rich, formidable, behind the scenes oligarchs that are calling the shots, and so whether it was Biden or Obama or whatever, this group doesn't change, and the only thing that changes is how they manipulate the minds of the masses. It's still manipulation, but they change it so that the people think that there's some type of progress, and of course there never is. So Biden did all this crazy stuff to set up the play, and then Trump comes in, and we think that we're going to get what? Out of wars. We're going to get a good economy. We're going to take care of this invasion of our land. So we're going to fix all these problems that Biden apparently caused. And then what happens? What happens is the wars get promoted. You can't keep sending, like I said earlier, you can't keep sending weapons to these aggressive nations and saying that all you're doing is helping them defend themselves against somebody else. That's an act of war. You help targeting, you help in ISR, you help in logistics. You're part of the warfare. You're an engaged enemy combatant, and there's no other way to look at it. But you can keep telling your people, "Oh, we're not doing anything wrong. We're just helping to help them defend themselves." Well, then you're actively engaged. So basically, I think what happened is that we had the campaigns back in 2000, starting in 23, then in 24, with this hopeful that we'd be able to turn things around, and we swallowed a hook, line, and sinker. The guy gets shot during a supposedly
allegedly.
During a campaign. I don't know if anybody's ever seen anybody get shot in the ear with a 223. I'm not so sure about this. All right. It's, I guess, possible that it would zip through the thin part of the ear and just make a little hole, but that thing's moving pretty fast and it's going to do some damage. So I am not certain what happened there. We do know, or at least we think we know, that somebody was actually killed by, one of the people in the stands was actually killed. I forget his name, and I don't want to say it anyway. But then we have the whole cover up of what happened, here we are with 1963 again, all over again. Except
Mm.
this time, there are a lot of other casualties, not the guy that they're after. Well, what is that about? What is that? Well, again, we go back to this biblical playbook. You have Manasseh, the King Manasseh, who's out there and he's doing all this bad stuff to the people, and supposedly doing worshiping false idols, whatever Manasseh's doing, and then all of a sudden you get King Josiah who comes in and reverses all that and goes back to what his grandfather Hezekiah was doing, the good stuff, the way the story goes, right?
Right.
Well, that's what we're seeing here. You had Obama and you had Trump, and Trump screwed us over in his first term with the whole, sickness thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then that, and there were some other things too.
Abrahamic Accord.
Yeah, then you go into the Biden administration, and it's like 10 times worse. And then you start looking for, we need King Josiah. We need the guy who's going to fix everything, and he says he will. And he comes in, and and, and, and what happens? Well, it's how does that phrase go? A new boss, same as the old boss.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I don't see that there's been any really major changes. Look, the personnel is policy. How
Wow.
many does he have in his administration that he picked? How many people are in there that he has brought in? A.G. Bondi is a perfect example. Her attacks on the Second Amendment when she was in Florida, just as an example, or what she did with the Trayvon Martin whole deal, or how she, I don't know how you feel about that, but the way that she handled that and tried to railroad the guy. A.G. Bondi, why would Trump bring her in there? Is it because he likes pretty women? Is that really why he does it? I mean, it almost seems like what it is. Yeah. Or was it because she sells herself out on whatever offer is actually being made under the table? I don't know, but you look at his administration, and they're all neocon war hawks, almost all of them, and they're all, I'll be careful how I say this, they've all gone to that wall in the Middle East, that put their head on the wall and sworn their allegiance.
Mm-hmm. So really, you really can't expect anything different. I would then use your famous adage, prep, pray, stay out of the way, because it is what it is, and it's a fast moving machine that no matter who you are, it's not going to stop rolling because who you are. And that's the big piece, is that no matter what, we always return to the beginning of the sheet music. Every one of us have to go back to coda, because at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to have any significant comfort or change is what you do in your own space to make the things that are outside of you change and not affect your inside or your home base to a large degree. Because it doesn't matter where you stand in the United States, everybody has been affected by the quote unquote 17 million eggs that aren't good. Everybody has been affected by, you just went and did your grocery shopping, and all of a sudden you realize that even though you brought that ground beef trying to prevent your kids from going to Mickey D's, you got something that could be contaminated in your refrigerator. And now let's just look at the salad, because now you've got, the cucumbers that are having an issue. So it looks like you damned if you do and you damned if you don't. If you're a part of that, then you're going to deal with that. And that is, what's going on over there and how it affects our country as a whole. Or if you don't deal with it, even on a micro level, it can still affect you one way or another. So it's nothing that they're doing that has turned anything around, to include RFK, to include him. I heard all of the vibrato, I heard all the vibrato, about, well, this was going on and that's going on and this. Okay. Yeah. Right. I agreed with you all while you were lower level, but now that you're a part of it, it seems to me you've been muted. And I didn't need you to be muted if what you were saying you could fix. But at the time you were saying that you couldn't fix it, now you're in a place where you can fix it and it ain't getting fixed. What happened to the money that you and this dude that you're now feuding with found? Oh, we heard rumors. Oh, they found this much money, and we're thinking about, breaking it off and giving it back to the American public. Well, I ain't seen it. You're saying a lot of stuff, but the only thing that I've seen that has not changed, not one jot, not one tittle, is the trajectory of war, the direction that we are going in to war. I don't
Right.
see none of they boys about to have, about to get called up. And the things that you got running around the military right now today are not the men of old. They can't handle nothing. So we're going to get our asses handed to us on the field, it looks like. And it looks like we're going to be involved in it soon. What do you see happening in the Middle East as a whole, not forgetting the fact that back a couple of years ago, Mr. Yahoo said that he was going to make a thoroughfare through the Middle East, a corridor that would allow commerce to move and flow freely. We can't forget that when we're looking at this clearing of land, basically.
Yeah, as you know, I wrote my book, The Crimson Thread, and it addressed these things that happened in the first century, which are really very similar to what's happening today. That area of the world is the crossroads of major trade routes, and it's been warred over for millennia for control. And that is their bottom line. And they're using their supposed persecutions of the past to justify clearing that land out so that they can take control of that. That's definitely part of the plan, but I don't think it's going to work out that way. Another thing that Matt Bracken says that I think is very apropos, and he says, they think they're going to ride the tiger, but thinking that you're going to ride the tiger and riding the tiger are actually two very different things. And this type of stuff, you start these types of horrible situations, and there is no way to control them, especially in these days where you've got these other nations with all these advanced weapon systems that can do horrible damage. But I do think it's going to go kinetic. I think we're going to get involved. I think it's going to draw in a lot of the nations of the world. Maybe you and I probably ought to think about moving to Tierra del Fuego. Maybe that would be a good idea. Southern Hemisphere. But to address what we can do about it, you see the impact we have. I mean, the American people, for instance, we don't have any voice in the government. They do what they want. They do what they're told by their masters, their oligarchs. And when I first went in the military, I knew there were problems in the government, and I thought, as a little second lieutenant, I was going to go up through the ranks and I was going to fix things. Well, guess who fixed? I did, right? So they're too powerful, and it wasn't until I got into and I'm very critical of the Abrahamic religions again, as I know you realize I am, and I've tried to move into that, like on my YouTube channel, very carefully over a number of years so that I didn't get it too abrupt. But I studied under a couple of rabbis. And one of them, well, they were both Kabbalistic rabbis, but the one that I had later got into the deeper ideas of Kabbalah. And everybody thinks this is wicked stuff. It's evil, it's black magic. That's not how it was originally designed. It was originally meant to just help you to understand the attributes of God. That was really all it was about. It wasn't even about prophecy, actually. And this is what both of these people told me, or both of these men. They said, you look at the world the way it is, that it is your personal educational institution, that everything that's done is for you to learn from it and to be able to obtain wisdom and understanding. And if you understand you're not going to change the world, despite what they tell you, but that your job, and you hinted on this, but that your job is to, as you said, prep, pray, stay out. Your job is to improve your own understanding and wisdom. Use this as your personal school. It then all of these things that are happening will have some efficacy for you, even though they're bad. They will actually be to your development. And that's kind of where I finally ended up. Why I stopped doing the YouTube things, because I felt like I had said enough. I mean, as I said at the very opening of this, you know that there's a bear down the path, and you tell people and they don't see it, or they avoid it, or they just ignore it. And then you have to start saying, look, this thing's got claws, it's got teeth, it's got muscle, it's going to rip you apart like you rip chicken bones apart. And then they finally start seeing it. But even that, they kind of just, eventually there's this normalcy bias. And I saw that, and it came to me that, really, I'm at that point where I really said all I can say. I can go ahead and I can pick out all types of things that are happening in the world and nitpick them and show what's happening. But really what I'm doing is I'm just repeating myself, because it's the same playbook no matter what.
No matter what. No matter
So
what.
Yeah. So what do? I say, I've got to learn this lesson, and this is for me to learn, and that's where I am right now. That's why you haven't heard from me very much.
And I understand and I get it, and I don't, I know that there are some people here who are podcasters as well, I'm sure, in the chat. But, when you are as when you dig as deep as we've dug, if I can say that, in the past, or into history, or into everything, or into different information that we are able to get, when you dig that deep and you continue to see the same stuff, then at what point do you realize, hey, you know what? I'm helping to promulgate their BS, and I really don't feel like dealing with it anymore because I can see it. You know what I mean? It's like I can see it, and it's you see it at the grocery store, you see it in the gas line, you see it, at the doctor's office, you see it when you have to go pick up a prescription, you see it when, when you pick up your kids or your grandkids from school, you see it in the classrooms, you see every bit of the propaganda that's been pushed on the American public in your daily lives. And then for us in our situation to have to come back and try to talk to people about it, it's really just smearing dirt on a windshield that's just got a little bit of water on it. It's going to turn into mud. You know what I'm saying? So it's like so it's like, then I start to talk about other stuff like, hey, let's be happy. Let's try to be, let's try to look at life from the brighter side. Or, you try to post something that doesn't look like you because you're just tired and you can't tell nobody, look, I am tired. I think your approach really showed everybody what you had been saying. And that is, and you had been saying it in private conversations, you had been saying it in public on X, where you were saying, hey, you know what? I don't know that if what I'm saying is making a difference. It seems like I'm saying the same thing. And it's because we are, and we were, and we have been saying the same thing. The sad part about it is, I think a lot of people like to run to the BS. A lot of people want to talk about something so that they can, quote thought stuff, or thought processes that they have, so that they can tell us, hey, well, the Bible says this, or hey, well, this is how the body works, or hey, this is what the sun does, or what I'm saying. It's like, what are we really doing? If we see it collectively, and collectively we can all tout or quote these different things that we have knowledge of, at what point do we rise above that collectively, since we're collectively joined at that moment? At what point do we say, okay, here's a solution, y'all. All right, here's what we're going to do. And but then you're going to find somebody say, well, what about this? Well, we can't do that because they don't let you do this. So then don't. You know what I mean? I feel like Richie from Boston. You know what I mean? He's like, hey, do it or don't. Either way it goes, it's not going to stop the train that is. So it really does allow us to see that what has been happening does create a divide. And that's the part that goes back to what you said. If we stay apart, if we don't realize that we are frequencies, that we are a frequency, that we are energy, if we can't even agree to that, there's really no need to talk. You know what I'm saying? It's like we are a frequency. If we were not frequencies, then we would not be able to feel the difference when we walk into a room or a house that has absolutely zero electricity in it. If you're going to go view a house and it doesn't have any lights, you can feel the difference when you walk into that place, because that frequency is that would normally run through you is not there. You can turn your Wi-Fi off. If you don't believe me, do it when we're done. Don't do it now, baby, because I need you to hear this. But if you don't believe me, when we're done, turn off your Wi-Fi in the house and see how much quieter it is.
Right, exactly. No, that's very true. And along the same lines, I don't know if you know who Stephen Coughlin is.
I've heard the name, but you know how I am. I get sort of green sometimes.
Stephen Coughlin is a very intelligent, he's a former Army officer, intelligence officer, who was in the Pentagon. He, along with Rich Higgins, who I interviewed on my show back in, what was that, 2017 or 18, somewhere back there. He was the NSC guy that McMaster's threw out because he was trying to warn Trump about, some actions being taken against him. And I interviewed Rich. Rich and Steve Coughlin started an organization called Unconstrained Analytics. And basically, it talks about mass line attacks and what we're going through. Steve, I have a lot of respect for him, but he went a little too far. He got to the point where he said that when you talk about these things, that the left, sets the parameters for the definitions, and if you use those same definitions, then you are just helping them push their agenda without you realizing you're doing it. So you have to change the words that you use, or else you're helping to push their agenda.
And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think it's true.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have to be careful about that. We don't use the same words that the enemy uses. And they object if you don't. We could talk about anything and I don't want to say anything here on that, but if you use their language to talk about the subjects that they bring forward, let's just say this is an example. Women's lib.
Mm-hmm.
If you use that and try to talk about the problems with that point of view, but you're using their words, then you're inside their matrix. Mm-hmm. So you've got to come out of their matrix and redefine the words for yourself, for your audience. So that's in other words, it's defanging their narrative, their jargon, so that they can't. You're not repeating it, because just merely repeating it reinforces it. Well, Stephen Coughlin had a follower. He wouldn't admit to it, I don't think, but you know who James Lindsay is. You know who that guy
is? I told you. And I like being that way, because I like when my stuff comes natural is natural.
Okay, well, so James Lindsay took off on this, and he became a conservative commentator. And when it came down to this whole thing in the Middle East with the war, with what was happening in Israel and in Gaza and all that, and in Ukraine for that matter, it was very obvious that what he was doing is using this excuse of not using the words of the opposition, that you shouldn't talk about it. In other words, don't talk about the problem, because by talking about the problem, you're just causing it to get worse. And I disagree with that.
I disagree with that.
You have to talk about it. You have to point out the hypocrisies. You have to do that. But I do agree with them that you don't use the opposition's
verbiage. Vocabulary. Yeah. Right. But I mean, but that's what you were just saying, though. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, oh, you can't talk about it. But yeah, we can.
That's what they did. That's where they took it. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for Stephen Coughlin, but I called him out on it publicly. I said, look, and I did. James Lindsay blocked me, by the way.
Oh, wow.
When you look him up, you'll know who I'm talking about. I'm sure you've seen him. But Stephen Coughlin didn't block me. He still stays with me, and every once in a while I'll see him comment on my post on X. and I appreciate that. Even though I know that you know uh, he doesn't. I don't want to say this wrong. He's still somewhat a company man. Let me put it that way.
Mm.
What he says is right, but then if you go too far and you criticize, like I say that the U.S. government is evil, he'd say, "Don't call them evil," because then you're using their thing, and plus you're gonna have their spotlight come on you. Well, I'm sorry, but I have to call them evil because that's what they are. So,
Mm.
so he's still a company man to some extent, but James Lindsay he took it to the next level and really, really corrupted, I think, what Stephen Coughlin and Rich Higgins and unconstrained analytics were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look up James Lindsay, I think if you see his picture, you'll realize that you've seen him in a lot of places, and he's he's the kind of guy that you think he's on your side until you really start saying, no, there's a problem with that too, and then all of a sudden you're his enemy.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he's what I would call limited hangout for sure.
I totally get it. I totally get it. I totally get it. That's like, so here's what I want to know. Do you think that Russia's going to get involved in this? Do you see China getting involved in what's heading on? And if they do, what do you think would be their joining point? If what happens, do you think they'll join in?
um, uh, this goes back to another problem. Putin has a history of alliance with the baby
Hats.
Yes, uh, and of course Trump does too. He's very much in it. I don't think China is. I don't think China is. And of course, Pakistan isn't either. So I guess if I were going to look at this thing from a 60,000 foot view, it's funny how I always draw all this stuff in. And I'm sorry I do this, but it's just the way my brain works.
No, go ahead.
When Putin started his SMO back in 2002 or 2022, it seemed to be legitimate, and I do think it was, and that he was trying to stop the Ukrainians from harming those Russian-speaking people in the Donbass, etc.
Okay.
Because the Maidan and all that the U.S. government did, the CIA and all that with Victoria Nuland was evil to the core. I do believe that to be the case. However, I am aware from my studies way back that it was one of the goals of a certain group of the chosen people to empty out the areas of Eastern Europe of white Christians, so that they could take over that area. In addition to the Palestinian area, in addition to it. So when I saw Putin pussyfooting around, for lack of a better term, supposedly because he was just trying to play politics, you either go to war or you don't. And he could have gone into the Ukraine and cleaned that thing up within a year. And I think those of us who, and I'm not an expert analyst, but those who are, but I'm good enough to know that he could have and he should have taken care of that within a year. Why? Because the logistics trains from NATO and from the United States would cause a problem if he didn't, and that's exactly what occurred. So I personally think, from what I've seen, I used to think he was a good guy, but at this point in the situation, I don't trust him any more than I do Trump. He has prolonged that war. It's caused massive casualties on both sides, and it's not done yet. And then I look at him with this thing with Iran and with Israel, of course, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure which way he's going to go. Is he really going? If the United States gets involved on the Israel side, is he actually going to back up Iran, knowing that he is a supporter of the chosen?
Mm.
Despite his ties to Iran, their treaties and their economic situation and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Will he really do it? I don't know. China and Pakistan, yeah, I think they'd be on Iran's side, no doubt. So what's going to happen? Russia, to me, at this point, is the wild card. I don't know. I don't really know because of his history and what I know about the um, uh, again, I got to be careful how I choose my words here. Uh, the messianic uh, uh, hopefuls and movement,
Mm-hmm.
and the New Jerusalem and all of that, which is all that stuff in the Ukraine and what's happening with what Israel was trying to do with its uh, eradication of a certain group of people out of the Gaza area. So I'm not certain, uh, but I do think that it's going to go to the situation where it's going to blow up big time, and I'm not sure where Russia's going to be. I'm not sure about that at this point. I don't consider them to be the Gog and Magog like the evangelical Christians do.
Okay, and why not? Tell me why not.
Well, it doesn't fit the profile. The, and that's the thing, when a guy pretends to be something that he's not, you can't just assume that you can apply a prophecy to him. I don't think you can do that, and that's the case here. And further, Gog and Magog is more of an action than it is a group. It's the description of what it is that's going on more than identifying the people. So I'm a little cautious at this point with Russia. I don't really know where they are. I don't like what I've seen happen in Ukraine. I don't believe that he went in there with the idea of winning in the first place, anything at all, despite appearances. So where he will end up in this situation. Oh, and then you have Zelensky now saying that that Iran is an enemy of Ukraine and that they need help because of that. So
Boy.
So what's going on here? Russia's a wild card. I've got to hold off and wait and see how this goes. So I don't mean to beat around the bush.
No, I appreciate your candor, because if based on the way that you looked at the history of it all, you would definitely agree that, yeah, that is a bit of a wild card, because you don't really know. You know what I'm saying? You don't really know based on what they've done. I personally don't see it as well. I mean, right now, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Pakistan, yeah, I do. And I could see China, because they think for themselves. I mean, I'm sure they're possibly a part of some bigger plan as well, which I know they are. But I sort of look at those old civilizations as not a nomad, but just the type of folks that are like, we do what we want to do. We don't care what anybody else says. And yeah, we see your plan, but we still do what we want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so, and we do know that the United States, under Clinton and the way that they built up China over the years, that there's a connection between the elites and China. I think that's pretty obvious. You hear somebody like Alex Jones saying, "Well, yeah, but then China double crossed the elites, and so now they want to go to war with them." Yeah, I don't know about all that, and I shouldn't even be quoting Alex Jones, but my point is, you know there's no honor amongst thieves. There's no honor
Mm.
amongst the leaders of these nations. Look what Trump did with drawing Iran into thinking that there was going to be these. I couldn't believe the Iranians were that stupid, actually. And I will say something. Remind me to say something about my work with Muslims and Arabs when I was in the military. You
Mm-hmm.
won't like what I have to say, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So he basically he lied. He acted treacherously, and you could say, well, it's war. Well, but we're not supposed to be, engaged in a war with Iran. I thought that was the idea, that we're not involved. So what he did is he used his powers of negotiation to betray the very people he was negotiating with, and
Mm.
ended up getting a bunch of them killed as a result.
Wow.
So I just don't trust any of them. I just can't. And all of this is permitted in the Talmud. It's all permitted in the Talmud.
Mm.
You can lie, and that's why I say that he's associated with that on more than one level. Okay, but at the same time, I got to tell you, and I said this on X. You know who Jackson Hinkle is, right?
Hello, remember it's me.
Yeah, you've been out of things for a while. Yeah.
And you, but
Okay,
you know,
Jackson.
but of all your friends, you know that I'm the anomaly because I'm sort of
Yes,
like,
yes. Well, Jackson Hinkle, he's a young guy. He's probably about 23, 24 now, and he's been all over the world, principally in the in the countries that stand against American and British imperialism. And he goes and he's friends with all these guys, and he's been reporting. And for the most part, I think he does a pretty good job. Although he has a little bit too much respect for people like coaching, Mao Zedong and
okay,
Stalin and those people.
okay.
He calls himself a communist. So, but I don't know how serious he is about that. But regardless, he still does a lot of good work. Well, anyway, so uh, the the let's see, how was I going to put that? Yeah, sometimes I get to talking and I lose my
I
train of
know
thought.
I'm the same way.
I got to think about how I was going to say this, but it was about
Well, you think
rat.
about that, and I'm going to let everybody know that you guys may see that there is a goal that's been created in the chat. Please click that button. If you have any questions that you want to ask, please click the goal button. And we are, because our channel is a monetized channel, and this is the only way that we can stay on. And by we, I mean me. So if you do have a question, I see a lot of questions that are here. If you have a question, please hit the goal button and then come on up and ask the question. Type it in and ask your question. And I'm going to ask Roy. There are certain questions that we're not going to ask. So don't get up here asking about Paul, and don't get up here and start talking to us about, the Paulinian way and all that New Testament stuff. You all know how we sit on that topic. So try to stay on the topic that we're dealing with today, because my mods are not going to allow those kind of questions, right? Because that's not what we're dealing with. But we are dealing with the state of the nation and our world at this point. It seems to me, and Roy, you can let me know what you think about this. It seems to me that all of our news sort of creeped in to include a couple of commercials that you will start to see. I'm watching a regular program, and then all of a sudden I'll get a Spanish commercial talking about Popeye's chicken, or talking about, a credit card or something. It'll be in total Spanish. I'm seeing news pop up where, there was a bus that fell off a cliff in the state of such and such in a different country. And so it looks like this whole one world thing is really taking a foothold. You let me know what you think about that. But this particular instance that the United States is now involved in is world related. How on the planet did Mr. Trump go from not wanting any wars or any new wars to where we are now? That's a loaded bunch of stuff that I just threw out there, but talk about that as well. And again, I do want to know, okay, so Russia may not get involved because you and I pretty much put a nail in that. But at what point do you think these other two, especially China, is going to get involved? And then inevitably, who's benefiting from any of this?
Oh, it's just a small group of people that are benefiting from it. Certainly, the people of the world aren't. but Trump is doing what he's doing because he and Netanyahu consider themselves to be the sons of light against the sons of darkness. In other words, messianic figures. Um,
Ah,
there's no question about that. You know that Trump received the King of Jerusalem
yeah,
crown,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's not a joke. That's
Hmm.
exactly where this is. So, in essence, despite the fact that they might think that they're the sons of light against the sons of darkness, he and Netanyahu, and they've been playing this Mutt and Jeff routine to make everybody think that they're at odds with each other. They are in competition for the final title, but their goal is the same, and that is, as you can I say the Noahide?
Oh yeah, you can say the Noahide laws.
That we've already seen it with basically the infringements on the First Amendment in the United States based on that, that you can't talk about those things. That's one of the Noahide laws. It's the blasphemy law under the Noahide laws, and the worship of anything other than their particular God, which is considered idolatry. So uh, Christianity, for instance, which again, I'm not a traditional Christian, of course, as you know, but to say that that's idolatry it's prohibited under the pain of death. That's tyranny, because who says that the God of those chosen people is the true one, right? They
Right,
do.
right.
I mean, who else does? So at any rate, the bottom line is I think that they're all. I'm not so sure about Xi Jinping. I'm not sure about him, but I do think that Putin, and I do think that Trump, and of course Netanyahu, and of course the people in Britain, basically Western Europeans, I think they all are on the same sheet of music, and
Hmm.
they want a big war. They're going to get it one way or the other, and um, China, Pakistan has already said they'll wipe Israel off the map.
Well, let me ask you
So
this. That's a heavy statement. That's
yeah,
really heavy. Now, weren't they just in a little skerfuffle with India?
yeah, they were, and I don't know that that's over with either. That's the other problem. Um, Again, it's this thing of George Orwell's 1984, Eurasia. The three different guys. Oh, we were at war with these people. We're not now. We're actually at war with these people. These guys are our friends. This thing constantly changes to keep everybody confused. So
Mm.
I'm not certain what's really happening between India and Pakistan. I know there's a problem between the Muslims in Pakistan and the Hindus in India. I do understand that. That's been a problem for a long time. I understand that, but I don't think that India and Pakistan were ready to nuke each other. I don't think that they were ready to go that far. The skirmish in Kashmir is just that. It's a skirmish in Kashmir, and yeah, you get these people crossing the border on both sides doing these atrocities. But is that enough to go to a nuclear war with? No, I don't think so.
No, that's like kindergarten stuff compared to
Yeah.
nuclear war. We have a super chat from Marty, one of our mods, and she says, just want to thank you for sharing your insight at Roy Potter and Felicia. We so appreciate you both, and we appreciate you as well. Everybody misses you. I mean, and you know that, but I think that we don't realize how people miss us until they tell us something like that. And so we appreciate you for that. And we're gonna keep your message right there. And we appreciate that. I really want everybody to look at what Marty has inside of the chat. She has Roy Potter's YouTube. Please go there and look at his work. If you want to know more about him, if you're new to him, if you knew him and then you didn't watch for a minute, go there and check it out because you're going to find a lot of good information. In tandem with that, you can also go and check him out on Twitter. I love it because he be putting his dukes up.
Yeah, I've been fighting them pretty hard. Even though I was trying to back off, I get drawn back in. I get sucked back.
Somebody said, yeah, somebody would say, "Hey, where is he? Where is he?" And I'm like, "Oh, you can check him out over on X. Going over there, you'll see him." And I mean, you be scrapping out there in the middle of the road. You be letting them know. So I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, I do want to ask you. And I'm sorry, I'm picking your brain on so many of these military questions, but I don't know anybody better to ask than you. I want to know how we look, not that it matters, but how do we look to the countries that are sort of wondering how this is going to end? Militarily, is everybody, getting themselves prepped? Like, even Japan, even though they don't have like a large army or whatever at all, what's going on with the other countries? What say you?
Well, yeah, I think everybody is feeling like, first of all, the United States, Trump doing what he just did to Iran. Who in the hell, pardon the expression, but who in the hell is going to trust anything the president of the United States tells them now? I mean, it used to be we didn't trust Congress and the treaties, but now you can't even trust the president of the United States at all. Period. He's a betrayer in chief. Period. He's a thief. He's a liar. He's a murderer. And I'm sorry to go that far, but I call it like I see it, and that's how I look at it right now. It was okay to do what they've done over there in Palestine to the people there in Gaza.
Wow.
We're going to turn it into Trump land, with beachfront property. And he's damn serious. At first, I thought he was just trying to pull, Netanyahu's leg, but no, he's absolutely serious about that. So, but to even say it,
expound on that for those who don't know about it.
Yeah. He's going. The United States was going to buy Gaza. They were going to develop, kick all those people out of there, and he's going to build a little golden statue with himself. And he was serious. He put this up on X. It was on his Truth Social account, so he was damn serious. Have a statue of Golden Trump, the Golden Boy, out there, with sitting on the beach, drinking
Mai Tais.
Whatever they were, and having LGBTQ guys dancing in their bikinis. I mean, this was serious. Put it out. Yes, it was on Truth Social. He put it out. He said, yes, put it out. So he was dead serious about doing this.
Wow.
Which is another reason why I know that this state of Israel, here we go, I shouldn't be saying this. Cut me off if you don't want me saying it.
No, go ahead, do your thing.
But here's the thing. If they were who they say they are, I say they're not. They're imposters, and this is the reason why. You can't have a pride parade in the ancient state of Israel without getting stoned to death.
And that's biblical.
There is no way they're the restored Israel in any way, shape, or form. So they've committed violations of mitzvot, and they've had omissions of mitzvot. In other words, they've denied commandments that are in the Torah, and they have also just not done them. They've done both. There's no way that in any way, shape, or form, anybody who studied this thing would think that these guys are the ancient Israel redeemivists. Wow. And that whole thing, like the deal with Gaza and like I just talked about, and the pride parades and all that stuff, those are prima facie evidence that the devil is screaming, I'm not who you think I am, but you're too damn stupid to figure it out because I pulled the wool over your eyes.
So how do you feel about the famous, because now I think everybody remembers and sees it for what it was, Trump a couple of times reciting the snake poem.
Obviously he was talking about himself. We all thought he was talking about the terrorists, right? Mm-hmm. No, he was talking about himself. That's exactly what and again, that's Talmudic. I'll just leave it at that. That's New World Order Talmudic type stuff where they have to tell you, Luciferian doctrine, they have to tell you what they're going to do before they do it so that they can push their sins over onto you. That's the whole idea of the goats the Israelite religion that all the sins that you commit are okay as long as you put them on somebody else and make them do them.
Mm.
Then you're exonerated because you can annihilate them, and your sins are forgiven because you've killed them all. So that's basically what he's done. Uh, uh, yeah, I don't know how else to say it. That's how I view Trump, and frankly, Netanyahu. And I'm beginning to, like I said, I'm beginning to wonder about Putin. I am.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm going to say this. It has been refreshing hearing your voice again and having you here with all of us, being able to share your wisdom. You know, I always put you up on this pedestal, and you know that. And you're always so humble, and you're like, well, no, but I'm going to go ahead and give you your flowers and tell you how awesome you are and how much I appreciate you, especially with all of your wealth of knowledge. What one thing I would like to ask is the state of our economy. And I do want to talk about before we close. I really want you to drive home if you have any knowledge of the whole social security piece, our economy, and even this, and even a bigger piece is I know you may have or you may not remember there was a coin, a Trump coin
Oh
that
yeah, I put it up on X all the time. Oh
so so talking about that, and then I do want to look at how the dollar is going to fare or bode with this attempt to now turn everything crypto, especially while they're getting all of the infrastructure together here in the United States. What do you think about the whole crypto idea? Of course, I don't really care too much about his coin. I did, purchase a little bit of XRP, but I'm not, of course, not in a situation to pile up on anything, because I don't really think that where they're putting the heat is where you're going to see in the future. Nobody thought that Bitcoin was going to do what it's doing. But what are your thoughts on our economy, and where do you see the dollar, and do you see us financially turning around anytime soon, or is it going to get worse? What are your thoughts?
Before I go there, let me just say that I apologize for not being as polished as I used to. It's been a long time since I've done it.
I don't know what you apologizing for, because ain't nobody polished, but you are not doing bad at all.
I just know I'm not doing. I'm not at 100%. But you do know, of course, also I'm on meds because I'm about ready to have surgery. So that's not helping much either. So it's
Well,
a
I
good excuse.
understand. I understand. I totally get it. And I understand. We love you just the way that you are. And the information that you've shared with us today, we appreciate. And I do want everybody to intercede on Roy's behalf so that, we all send all that good stuff his direction. I'm just glad that you're here with us and that you're able to share.
Well, I appreciate that your patience and your indulgence. So, talking about financial stuff and the economy and all that, you know, I it's not I shouldn't have this excuse. It's not a good excuse, but I've never been a financial guy. I never got into the stock market. I took an accounting class in college and I hated every minute of it. It made absolutely no sense to me. I could do calculus because there were obvious, this logical, but this
and they made us.
yeah, but statistics and economics and finance, it's all man-made rules, and it just never made any sense to me. Mm-hmm. So I could balance a checkbook. That's about it. All I can say is that obviously economic warfare is part of the deal. Kissinger himself said food is a weapon.
Wow.
So food is in the economy. It's what they're doing to the Gazans now. They're starving them out. It's called siege warfare, and there are different types of methods of doing that. And one of them we saw in the United States, during the sickness time period, where a lot of the commodities that we needed were not available for whatever reason. So it was to see, well, how will the people react to this? And you saw, how people were going and they fight over stuff, in the stores and all that. So economically, no, I don't think we're getting better at all. We keep hearing about, well, now that the war in the Middle East is going, gasoline is going to go through the roof again. But Trump's big thing is that he was reducing, our dependence on energy. And
drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, we were going to. Well, where is that? I guess some places in the United States have had reduced gas prices. Where I am, they didn't drop at all. As a matter of fact, they went up 20 cents,
It's more of
and
the
that was
same.
yeah, and that was before this thing in Iran really kicked off. So what I would say is economic warfare, uh, uh, kinetic warfare, psychological warfare. I see it all escalating. I don't see it abiding. One might slow down a little bit as they go on. It's sort of like when you look on a battlefield, you move this division forward, and then you hold them into place and put them in a supporting fire position while you move another division up to the line, and then they hold that, and then the next division moves up. In other words, that's what they're doing with all these different parts of their assault on mankind. So what I see, sometimes when the economy seems to be getting a little better, it's just that now they're moving up a different attack on another axis of advance. That's all they're doing. Nothing's going to get better. The promises made were made to lull you into a carnal security. Uh, there is no principle anymore. Trump has no principles. The government has no principles. The world has no principles. I mean, there are people that do, but by and large, it's a game right now where all the governments are actually at war with their own people, and and I don't see things getting better. That again, we've got to become more self-reliant. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Be aware. Keep your situational awareness on high. Know what's going on, but know that the end game is destruction, and how if it gets stopped, it'll take deity to do it. I will say that,
Wow,
but
I
it's not.
so agree.
Yeah, but it's not going to be a deity like Orange Man, or or or
Yeah, because they're really playing. They're really, and quote unquote, they're playing with God. They really, honestly are. Because I
oh
mean, you
yeah,
have to think about it. There is no way, Roy, that this catastrophic type of bloodshed and stuff that's been going on can be allowed to continue like this. And then you see all these little fake fights to sort of get your eyes off of it. Like, and I do want you to talk before you go about the whole Trump and Muskie bromance. I do want to talk about that because that was so fashioned. But there's just no way that you can think that the God that is going to allow this to persist.
yeah. You sure wouldn't think so, but you know what? Um, One of my mentors said that, addressed that once, and he said, and I think I told you here just a little while ago, that this is our school. This is where we come to learn, and that this
Mm,
place was designed just for you, individual. You're going to experience the things as an individual, just for you, even though it's worldwide. It's going to affect you in a certain way,
yeah.
and I think that's the case here. There's um, there's no way that that you can that you can totally prepare for what's coming.
Absolutely.
There's no way you can, but you're expected to do what you can, and and to do what's right in disregarding, not disregarding, but taking into consideration what you can do and doing that. And it's not going to be very much because of the way things are going.
Hmm.
Uh, and I don't know. I don't know if I could make it any clearer. Uh, I don't think there's going to be. I said deity is going to have to do it. I don't know what form that's going to take. I
Okay.
don't. I don't know how that's going to happen. But I do agree that it's about the only choice that we've got now. Whether it's the um, awakening of mankind as a whole at an instant, which could happen. I'm not saying it couldn't, or whether it is an outside force of some sort that comes and says, "Hey, it's not this way. This is the way it's supposed to be." I don't know, but that's how I don't see it any other way. I don't see how we're going to get out of it without a major a major change of heart. major change
Just
of
a major change.
yeah
There's like there would have to be a total different. I mean, that this whole entire place would have to just be realigned in a matter of minutes. And just like literally, just because there's, I can't see anything making a difference other than creating something that would make it actually worse. In that, the shift or the change to me would be, okay, everybody, you saw that come from the sky, now we go back in your house and stay there because we got to deal with what's happening in the sky. Major worldwide distraction, right? Like what we had 5 years ago. I do want to ask you this question before we go. What was that with Musk? Here's why I'm asking. We all knew when he first went in that he was going to be leaving in May. Everybody knew that, I thought. But then on his way out, they made this big, distraction in their alleged argument between them. Now, I remember Muskie being over there with Klaus Schwab several years ago, and I remember him touting some of the same rhetoric that Schwab was touting. What was that? What was the whole Musk and what part of theater was that? Or was it theater at all?
Well, I can't read minds on there. I just have to look at the fruits.
Come on now.
We know, for instance, that the whole thing between Netanyahu and Trump was basically to just lull the Iranians into a security that benefited, not the Iranians,
Definitely.
So, what was the thing between Musk and Trump? Was it a way to try to influence the left? To think that maybe Musk would turn against Trump, and the right and the left in his own administration would be at war with each other. I really don't know, Felicia. All I will say is this: if you believe that mankind's next step in our development is to have a mechanical chip put in your brain, I'm not on that train. I don't believe that.
Okay.
I would refuse it. No way I would take part in that. And for that reason, I don't trust Musk. We've got these. I'm talking to you on my phone right now, which has more computing power than the computer that was on Apollo 11 when it went to the moon, right? So, no, I don't believe we went to the moon, by the way, but that's another story. But the point is we've got these things now that, and I use it, and I feel kind of bad about it in some regards. I might forget something, and I can punch it in here and figure it out. I can bring up the information. Well, they want to plant that in our brain. They want, and worse than that, they want our entire body to be part of the Internet of Things and the Internet of Bodies. And in other words, it's an artificial connection. It's not spiritual. It's an artificial connection. And Musk goes along with that, and I don't like it. So I don't really know what he's about. He might have good intentions, but hell is paved with good intentions.
Come on now. That's the truth. Yeah. I believe that.
Yep. So that's where I stand on the Musk Trump thing. It could have been a disagreement over the financial thing. I don't think that's the case. I think it was it was something maybe to boost Musk's
popularity.
His popularity, or at least maybe giving him some by these people that were objecting to what he's doing. I don't know. I just, all I know is that when you push the COVID shots,
yeah,
and when you push war,
transhumanism, war,
and when you push transhumanism and interfering with mankind's normal development by using computer chips that are actually not your own, it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. It's going to be controlled by a central AI that can interfere with your own liberty and your own freedom of thought, I don't consider that development at all. I consider that tyranny.
I agree. I agree. Thank you, my brother, for being with us today. Everything that you have said and shared with us, we so appreciate. Again, I want everyone to remember to include Roy in your time of, I'm not going to say prayer. I want you to pray for yourself, but I definitely want you to intercede on his behalf or stand in the gap, as it were. If you are somebody who understands that, right? If you understand it, then I want you to intercede. If you don't know how, then please don't. Let those of us who do it. Okay. So I want that to be said up front. And remember that he's a person just like all of us. I do want everybody to please go and look at his work. Go to his channel. Our mod, we have a super mod here today who has actually put up, and all of my mods are super. Let me just preface that. Okay, let's just start there. But we do have a mod who has been putting up information on how to reach out to him. And by that, I mean, look where you see Marty. She has put in how to go to his website. And then by his website, I mean X page as well. Make sure that you go over and check him out here on YouTube because he has a lot of work that's there. She's even put up his library catalog link for you to get there. So please, please, please get yourself well informed on who he is if you don't know already. And if you do know, if you haven't seen everything that he's put up, please go and check it out. All right. Check it out again, because I guarantee you, if you do that, you're going to see some more information that you thought you saw, but now you see it in a different light. Okay. Roy, again, I want to thank you for being my guest today. I love you so much. And you know that I'm interceding for you, your family, and everyone. Is there anything you'd like to share before we close out?
Yes. And that is that Felicia is concentrating on me, but I want all your listeners to know that you've been going through some very difficult times yourself. And I would hope that they include you in the same supplications that you have asked them to do for me.
I appreciate you, my brother. I love you. Thank you so much. And on that note, folks, I don't think that we can do any more. I think, for you to hear from both of us after not being here for a minute is a treat, especially for Roy. And I just want everybody to just, come on back and check out the channel. We are back up and running again. Go check out Roy over there on X, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it today, baby. Go call it. But go over there and check him out, because when I tell you he is in the trenches over there, it's the truth. And that's what I want you guys to do. So nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and close out here, but I want to tell everybody to remember to prep, pray, and stay out of the way. All right. Okay. And on your way to doing it, if you don't eat meat and you got some corn, I want you to put some of this on your corn, because I got to give my other brother from another mother a shout out as well. And that is none other than Judge Joe Brown. I love each and every one of you guys. Remember what I always say, and that is take care of yourself first, because if you don't take care of you, trust me and believe me, nobody else will do it. Then after you do that, you can reach around and help your brother or your fellow man. All right. I love each and every one of you. Hey, everyone. It's me, Felicia, of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do, because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it. But I don't have to do that anymore, because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will. To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.